Hi friends, it's Diane from Boho Stamper. Thanks for joining, and I'm hoping that my internet continues to behave. I struggled with my 10 o'clock live today. I had a couple of starts, and my live video started after just a couple seconds and asked me if I was ready to broadcast, and wasn't quite sure what it wanted me to broadcast because we hadn't done anything yet. So hopefully we stay connected. So welcome to those of you who are just joining, and I am Diane from Boho Stamper, and we begin our series on Christmas in the Making today, which is January 25th. Can you believe Christmas was a month ago? A whole month. Sometimes it feels like it was just last week. And we are going to start making Christmas cards for 2021 on the 25th of each month. So, let's get started. I'm going to pull my old paper over here because I wrote some notes on here for myself. And I wanted to share with you, sometimes when we talk about being inspired by other cards, the first one that I'm going to do today, this was from my upline Anne, who had sent that card to me, and this is what inspired my card for today. And this is the card that we're going to do. So you can see that really they aren't the same card, but when I took this one out of, I keep a box of cards from other folks, swaps that maybe we've done, or cards that people have sent to me, so that they do give me inspiration. And when I pulled this one out, and I loved the tag on it, and I don't know that I've ever made a card where I put a tag front on it, and just adding a little bit of dimension. And I don't know if you can see that Anne had stamped her images on the background, creating her own background paper, which is what we just kind of did from my Hello Monday live, which was about an hour late, but it's up there. And we went over some techniques on how to make a background, and this is a perfect example of that. And so today, if you're not ready to make your own background, or if you don't have designer series paper and you want to make your background, this will help you with that. And I started this card out today with designer series paper from the Brightly Gleaming paper, I think it is, which was so popular that it just got carried over into the 2021, yes, Brightly Gleaming Specialty Designer Series paper. And it should still be available, to be honest. I did not have time to look it up, but it was still available for this Christmas. And this paper has some really pretty copper embossing in it. It is two-sided. One side has the shimmer and sparkle side to it, and the other side is a matte design. It has gorgeous colors, and some of these designs are pretty enough that all you really need to do is add a greeting, and you can have a card. And this paper coordinates with Mossy Meadow, Night of Navy, Pretty Peacock, and Very Vanilla. And what got me started doing this was, as I was cleaning up my craft room a little bit after Christmas and putting stuff away, I was thinking, I didn't even get to use this set, or I wanted to do more out of that, or I had plans for that stamp set, and I didn't have time to do them all. So I'm just going to start working on them now. And hopefully I'll get to use some more of my cards, or some more of my stamps, before my Christmas cards all have to be in the mail. So my first one is using Beautiful Baubles, and I still did not use this set, at least for today. I have used it in the past. I didn't use it today. We are going to use the big Christmas ball on there. And as I said, I started with some Mossy Meadow, and this was an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper that I cut in half and scored at 4 1/4, and I'm folding it in half again so that we have an 8.5 by a 5.5 inch card. Did I just lie? I did. We have a 4 1/4 by a 5.5 inch card. 8.5 would be really big, huh? And I cut a piece of that Designer Series paper at 4 by 5 1/4. And we'll be able to layer that onto the card base. And then I save, excuse me, I save all of my metallic scraps too. So I had some different embossed metallic, oh, I should have used that. That's pretty on there too. And used the two stamp sets that we had to cut out Christmas ornaments out of my metallic paper. After I had some of these cut out, these were just punched right out of the brush metallic. If you have something different, if you have a Santa Claus or a snowman, or if you're making an Easter card and you want to cut out an Easter bunny, feel free. This is your card. These are just ideas for you. Once I had my ornaments punched, I ran them through a couple of different embossing folders to see how they would look. This one I did through a sequin embossing folder. I don't know where the other ones went. Maybe I used it. But my favorite one was the Dainty Diamonds embossing folder. And so I just set my die cut ornaments in, or my punched out ornaments in the embossing folder, and ran it through my cut and emboss machine, and they came out with a little bit of a design. Just added a little bit of interest to our ornaments. Set those extras aside in case we decide to add another one. Okay. Now I liked Anne's tag card, but I did not have a tag punch, or if I do, I certainly couldn't find it. And so what I found that I did have was the Celebration label dies, and this die had a really pretty design on it that I thought would make a nice tag topper. So I cut 1 3/4 inch wide piece of Mossy Meadow, and I think this was 4 3/4. Oh no, 5 1/2, but I think I did cut it down so that it would fit the front of my card a little bit better. And I did not want to cut out the whole die, obviously. I just want the top. And so we can do that. You know, my camera is a little bit close here. I apologize. I did try to pick it up but it's heavy and it keeps dropping forward. I'm praying that the whole thing doesn't come down one day. Just try and tighten it up a little more. Maybe you'll be able to see a little better. So I put my one plate in. Want my die cutting one? I put a number 2 plate into my mini cut and emboss. And I'm going to line my die up here. And I'm going to be really careful with washi tape because when I did this on my other card, that washi tape tore my cardstock a little bit. And then I'm going to put my top plate on here only to as far as I want the die to cut. So I only want it to go this far. I'm going to stop my plate from going any further. I want it to go to about the top of that little curve. If it's not between the cutting plates, it's not going to cut. That washi tape really is sticky. Oh, look at that. It's going to tear my paper again. But it's on the part we're cutting off, so that's not going to be a problem. Now my strip that I cut for my tag was a little bit wider than the die, so I just used the paper snips. I guess I could trim it down, make it a little bit narrower. One side seems to be wider than the other. This is really a little difficult to see under the camera, so I apologize. And that gave me a cute tag top. I also, oh, you know what I wanted to do? In the same die set, there are these little little cutouts. Let me get it off of there. And I should have done that while I was cutting the top. Could have done them both at the same time. That's okay. I like playing with my little emboss and cutting machine. It's very handy being able to have it right here under the table. There is a, I lied, I don't have the magnetic, I think I do, I don't know where it's at. I think I do have the magnetic plate that goes in there. I honestly can't remember. I'm almost afraid to put washi tape on there because I don't want it to tear my cardstock. But you can, if you have a low-tack tape, put that on your die again to hold it into place. Where'd you go, little guy? That was a baby right there. There it is. Set this aside for the moment. Again. Put my die away so I don't lose them. I was going through some cardstock, pulling out to show my samples this morning, and thank goodness I did, because there was a die in there, and I'm not quite sure. I think I know which set it's from. I haven't had time to pull that set out yet because it was with my Christmas ones that I was putting away. And I think I am going to cut just a smidge off of, well, I'm not going to do it with the embossing. That looks a little more even. All right. Then we need, I am going to stamp tone on tone, so I'm going to use my Mossy Meadow ink to stamp my greeting on my tag. And one thing that I did not do on my original card, but when I looked back at my sample card from Anne, she had stamped down the side of the tag, and I kind of like that. So in this set, there are some little snowflakes or sparkles or stars, and I thought I would like to add those to this tag. Now, Mossy Meadow. Did I set it aside? Oh, how about right in front of me? So let's add some of those little make sure that you can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to turn my stamp around so that they're not stamping in the same direction each time. I think I like that little bit of added ink. And I want to double check how long I left this tag, because I have written down 4 3/4. That is what it is. Okay, so my tag then was 1 3/4 by 4 3/4 inches. I want to trim it down before I put my my greeting on there, so that my greeting doesn't look like it's way off center. And the nice thing about this set, and made it easy to use a tag design, was the one greeting on here, hope you find beauty in the details of the season, because it's nice and long. So I'm just stamping that, or inking that up in Mossy Meadow. It's looking like I need to re-ink that one now. And stamp it down a little bit so I have room for my ornament at the top. A couple of my stamps out of here are so beat up because I did I think this set was from like 2018. And I did use the dies and made a ton of Christmas cards that I sent out that year. But I still didn't get to use everything on there that I wanted to. And so this was my ornament that I'm going to use. And for my ribbon, I had some copper ribbon. I guess this is more of a gold, but it's Christmas, so sparkles and metallics don't matter. They're pretty. Out of the basket weave and metallic ribbon combo pack, there's some copper ribbon in there that I thought would just work really well with this. And I'm going to cheat and use my little bow maker. Let's see, which size did I do for that? I have my poor craft room again. Even though I try to clean stuff up, I'm forever creating more messes. My winners off of my scavenger hunt this year, I was waiting for one more confirmation of addresses before I sent their prizes out, because I didn't want to pay for postage if I didn't have all the correct addresses. And I got that Saturday, so those are ready to go today. So I have a bunch of envelopes sitting out over there. Boy, I just knocked you guys off of there again. The new stamp sets from the catalog and Celebration. Remember, Celebration ends the end of February, so if there was something that you wanted to get for free, you still have until the end of February. And if you have thought about doing this you're more than welcome to email me and I will get you signed up here as a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Okay, so let's put our Designer Series paper onto the card base. I think I just ran out of Stampin' Seal. Nice. Nice, nice. We'll have to change that. I have it actually out. I thought I was close. Let's just use whatever I have here. Center this on our card base. Now we're going to add some dimensionals to the back of the tag. We want to put this on here at a diagonal, and then my ornament is going to be partially on the tag and partially on the card base. So we need dimensional on this side, and we'll need some tape runner on the side that's going to stick to the tag. And then we'll just use a glue dot to adhere our bow to the top of the ornament. I can't find, there it is. I'm actually going to put 2 on here. And I just roll the glue dot a little bit with my thumbnail until I get it rolling. Since the ribbon is little. Now we can stick that on the top of our ornament. And there's our first Christmas card for 2021. And it didn't take that long. So yay! The second card that I was going to use this set for is not a 10-minute card. And this is a new technique that I had never done before. I had seen it done and wanted to try it, but again, never had the time really to give it a go. So here is your first card, and you can add some more gemstones or some little copper rhinestones or whatever you want to add to your card. If I find something coppery, I might add to this tag since I didn't stamp down the side of it. Now our second card, let me grab that packet. And this card was inspired, and I must have really liked it because I've pinned it several times. So when I went back to the pin and looked at the directions for this card, this was from Laura Lynn. I don't know if this was Laura Lynn's original design or if she learned this technique from somebody else and shared it. But that is where I got my design from. And that tutorial explained how to do the card, but the bauble, but not necessarily how to do the card. And so my card, I fussy cut the bauble out and put dimensionals on it on the inside of the card. And when I went back and looked at hers and enlarged it, I think what she actually had done was used a basic white panel, put her ornament on that, and had a different, just a front panel cut out of Night of Navy, which is the way we're going to do it. And then she adhered everything to a basic white card base. So I think that will probably work better than the way I did it. This works, but it's not really how I wanted it to be. But this card is going to do we're going to do some embossing, some heat embossing. That's why I said this is not going to be a 10-minute card. So this is a card for when you have a few minutes and you want to sit down and be creative. And maybe if you are a painter, you know that sometimes it's very relaxing to sit down and just paint. And we're going to paint a little bit on here. So if we're going to change this up a little bit now, and we're going to use a basic white card base. It's not heavy though. Let me get a heavy one. Okay. And then we have a white panel, which is going to have to be a little bit smaller. And then she used a Night of Navy on top of it, which would be the same size as the card base. So my directions already have had to change a little bit here from what I've written down. Okay, so our card base is the Whisper White. I'm sorry, Basic White. It's now Basic White. So our card base is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So let's make this one 4 by 5 1/4. And this is what we're going to do our bauble on. And then our Night of Navy panel will also be, my goodness, 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, so 5 1/4. Or did I just mess that up? I did, because I want it to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. All right, so we're gonna four 1/4 by 5 1/2. And that's going to cover our front panel and get layered on the cardstock, our card base. Okay. And I'm going to use the Stamparatus with the big bauble. And our Stamparatus is the stamp positioning tool that holds your stamp in place and your card in place so that you can stamp more than once. Now that I'm doing this a little bit different though, I want to make sure my bauble's going to stamp in the kind of in the middle of my card. And when you're using your Stamparatus now, because we have a photopolymer stamp that we're using, I do have the foam base under here, which I'll show you in a minute. Let me get this lined up. Okay, that should work. There. And hold my card, my white panel in place with the magnets. And here's the foam pad that comes in the Stamparatus. So I'm going to leave that in here if we're using photopolymer. Boy, I should have brought some water up here. I think I've been talking too much. And so what we're going to do first is use an anti-static powder. And I still have my embossing buddy from Stampin' Up. This isn't sold anymore, but there are other products out there. And I think that the focus of Laura Lynn's design was that we can emboss any design with any color of ink, even if we don't have different color of embossing powders. And I was looking to see, I was sort of hoping, oh, I have that broken piece. I broke my one magnet when they snapped together. And I put the one aside because it is a little bit sharp. But I want to make sure my paper stays in place. And I'm going to stamp my bauble first with Night of Navy. I hope I have that up there far enough that you can see. So I'm inking up my stamp with Night of Navy, and this might take a couple of stamps to have a good clear impression, depending on how well you have your ink pad inked up. And so I'm just going to smooth over my lid here, trying to get the ink. That's what I was kind of afraid of. Sometimes if I don't get the magnets placed right, it doesn't make a nice impression, but I don't want my paper to move. That's looking better. I'm going to do one more time. And if we get, well, that's not ink down there for a minute. I thought I had a smudge of ink. I was going to say that's okay because we're going to cover it up, but it's might be some of the embossing powder. All right, let me get that blue out of the way. That's fine. I am happy with that. Okay, now we're going to use, I'm using my Simply Chamois here and cleaning off my my stamp. I'm going to give it a second to dry. And this is, I showed this the last time in case you don't have anything handy. This is a Simply Chamois from Stampin' Up. I'm still using my old ones, but they're getting pretty bad. And so what I do is cut my chamois in half, and then I cut the one side in half again, so that my little piece I can use on my Stamparatus and stuff. And the other ones, I just leave them all in a little, I'll show you, in a little plastic storage bin with some water. They don't get mildewed or moldy. You get dirty. Believe it or not, I washed those this morning. And that's what I use to get the ink cleaned off of my stamp pad. Okay, I think we're dry. So I'm going to use my powder again, because now we're going to stamp over this in Versamark ink, which is our embossing ink. And Versamark is a sticky clear ink that can be used by itself or as an embossing ink. I just realized I moved my heat tool here earlier. I want to get that set up. There you go. Alright, so let's ink our stamp up again with Versamark. And stamp right over top of the Night of Navy. And this is why the Stamparatus is so handy. I'm going to do it one more time, because as long as you can keep your paper in the same place, you can stamp right over top of your previously stamped image. All right. Now I'm going to take my panel with the Versamark, and I'm going to sprinkle clear embossing powder on top of the stamped image. And I have this humongous bottle of clear embossing powder. This will probably last me until I die. I'm telling ya, I don't know why I got so much, but I'm wondering if that didn't get Versamark on it right there. And I'm gonna mute this for a minute while I heat this up. I guess I should put this back in the container first. When you're heat embossing, you want to get your heat gun warmed up just a little bit before you bring it to the paper. And I'll try to get this over here so you can see the ink changing. Okay. So I think it did emboss on that side a little bit. It's just not quite as heavy. So can you see how it changed from just the regular Night of Navy ink into a little bit of a shiny embossed ink? So we're going to give that just a second to cool. And then, and you can do this in any color that you like. Oh, I think I missed a little bit there. Better. It still had a little bit of powdery residue down there, so I could tell it was not embossed all the way. But, yeah, in any color you want to, but her sample was done in blues, and I think that's what caught my eye. Like I said, I put this on my Pinterest. I pinned it a couple of times because I just liked it. And so here's the new technique that I had never done. Stampin' Up! Had at one time, and I don't think they sell it anymore, this shimmer paint. And I've seen this used in a lot of demonstrations, and a lot of demonstrators wish that it was still sold by Stampin' Up!, but not to be, for right now anyway. Maybe it'll come back. And I think that in the sample she used Night of Navy, Gray Granite, and Tranquil Tide in her painting colors. I don't have Tranquil Tide, so I went with Pool Party. And I'm going to start with my lightest color first, which is the Pool Party. And this is where you are not going to be able to get this card done like just in a few minutes. And this shimmer paint, and You can get shimmer paint from other suppliers. You know, you can get pretty much anything online anymore, for goodness sake. But there are other ink companies or other stamping companies that you can get shimmery paint from. Doesn't take a whole lot. This is Frost White. And I am going to use one of our aqua painters. I'm not using the water to paint with. I'll use the water when I go to clean my brush out, but I am going to use the brush tip. And I'm going to take some of the white paint and mix it in with the Pool Party ink. And that Pool Party little spot that I had was just a leftover stamp spot from probably a paper pumpkin. And then you can start painting your bauble or your ornament in any pattern that you want to. And this is why I said you can make your colors whatever you want. This would be really pretty done in some reds or some like some shaded spruce, or and because you've embossed the bauble, the raised edges make it a little bit easier than to keep your paint. I think I do have some water coming out of there and I don't really want it to. Keep your paint in the stamped image. You can see the embossed part of it kind of raises up above the paint, kind of comes right back through. And over here it did not emboss because I can see it bleeding a little bit. So take your time, do a little bit of painting and enjoy painting. You can make your bauble any colors that you want to. And then I'm just going to use some, I didn't have a Pool Party re-inker, but I do have a gray granite re-inker. And with the white pearl paint, this almost makes it a silver. Or the Frost White shimmer paint. This becomes almost silvery. I was so flustered after my live was giving me trouble this morning. I was afraid that we weren't even going to get to do Christmas cards today. I was thinking, oh, I just finally got this figured out how to use this shimmer paint with stuff, and really wanted to share that with you. Just in case there are other people like me out there who didn't know how to do it. And you can go back later and put a second coat on even. Let's see, I'm going to do that in navy, navy, navy. Maybe that's it for the gray for the moment. I'm just going to clean my brush here. And I have some Night of Navy re-inker. And then mix the frost white with that. That's really pretty. And I would say that if you're gonna send out 40 or 50 cards, this is probably not the one that you're gonna want to do, but you have somebody really special that you want to make a card for. This one would be really nice. I really do like the shimmer that it gives it. And I think I missed those little ones there with the pool party, so I'll have to go back in there and get them. My water brush is just one of the original ones from Stampin' Up. I need to get the new ones. They come with, they come in a 3-pack now, and there's a broad brush and a little bit more of a detailed brush, and then this regular one. And I'd really like to get the detailed brush. Clean this and fix that pool party part that I missed. Right here. What was I thinking? I don't know, can you see the shimmer that ink has to it now, rather than just the flat stamped ink? It's really very pretty. So once you have everything painted, set all those aside. And that, so I don't make a mess. Then we're going to take the Night of Navy panel that we cut and our die for the ornament, and I'm going to center this on here And being very careful because I don't know what's with this washi tape. You saw on my last card when I put it through, it kind of pulled a little bit. Almost afraid to use it. Try to get some of the stick off of it so it doesn't pull my paper anymore. And I'm gonna just step over to my cut and emboss machine and die cut this out of the blue pan. I'll be right back. Well, that's good. It didn't stick to the blue. Keep that blue circle for something else. It's kind of like a bonus. I'll have to remember to brush all the bits out of that one later. Make sure that everything is cleaned out of the die cuts. And I think it's pretty dry. And then we can layer this over the top of the bauble. With just some, again, I would use my Stampin' Seal Plus if I wouldn't have just finished it. Oh, I should probably have done my greeting on here first. That's okay, we can get that next. Okay. So then I'm just going to line the blue die cut circle up, trying to get my bauble in the middle. And then we want to heat emboss on the bottom. Where did I put my, was I smart and put it away? Doesn't sound likely. What? I did. Be darned. That, and where's my Versamark? Deck the halls. Stamp that in Versamark on the front. And then coat that with just white embossing powder. And I just use a coffee filter to put my embossing powder over so that I can dump it back into the containers. Again, small container of embossing powder is gonna last you a long time. And I can heat this now. Should be able to see the powder change. If you have any embossing powder that got where you didn't want it to, you can just wipe it off with either a little paintbrush or go. You can see how it changed to clear white. Or, I'm sorry, a solid white. And I like to just twist it around a little bit because if there are any unembossed areas, again, that's how you can see it. And I have a little extra of my basic white up here since we centered our blue panel over it. And I want to trim that. Then we can use our card base, and whichever way you decide to do your card, either lying it flat onto the card base or picking it up with dimensionals. I think I'm gonna put mine on here flat. So I'm gonna use a little bit of my liquid glue here. Line it up with the edges of my card, and that was why I wanted the liquid glue, because it gives me a second to move it around and make sure the edges are lined up. And one of my tricks is just to set an acrylic block on there, because I'm going to make a bow to add to that. So I can let that glue adhere for a second. And I'm using the metallic edged ribbon that was white with some silver on it. Okay. And then again, just using my little bow maker, because I am not the best at making bows. Besides, this just makes it so much easier, so much faster. Just make sure to pull it tight before you take it off of your bow maker. And I'm going to use my big scissors to trim that. Make sure I get a nice edge. And then again with a glue dot, and I think I'll take, I think I have, oh, you know what, I think I have a Versamark pen. I may go back over those little lines right there where it did not emboss, just to make that shiny like the other blue ink. And stick my bow on the top of my ornament, and that was our new technique for today in our second card for 2021. And again, like I said, this one you need a little bit of time for, so you can sit down and paint. The first one, nice and easy. Can use our designer series paper to do a lot of the work for us. And remember, you can add any element if you have a snowflake or a Santa Claus or whatever you want to add to your card. I hope you found this inspirational and helpful, and I hope that you get a chance to start on some of your cards for 2021's Christmas season. And by the time the new products get released, we'll be ready to get some more paper. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and we'll see you doing our Christmas cards on the 25th of February. So tune in then. Thank you.